Today we're digging into a fascinating pile of material, heavily leaning on ideas from Brian Tracy, among others. Our goal, maximum extraction. We want to get past the usual motivational fluff. We're aiming for a shortcut, really, to distill the actual mechanics of the mind that lead to success, what really works, tactically.
And I think it's crucial we set the stage right away because, honestly, most people start off on the wrong foot. They kind of believe success needs something extra, like, a special gift, super high IQ, maybe just incredible luck. They're sort of waiting around for this magic formula to just appear.
Exactly, searching for the secret sauce. But the core insight, really, across all these sources is, well, it's simple, but it's tough. Success isn't just about your genes or catching a lucky break. It's a discipline. An internal discipline. We're talking about tiny choices, repeated all day long, focusing only on what builds you up, what drives you forward, what makes things possible.
And that's where the intentionality becomes so important. It's not about the one big decision. It's about choosing this thought, then choosing the next one, and doing that over and over consistently. How you decide to filter things, how you engage with problems every single day, that dictates what you think you can achieve and ultimately what you actually go after.
Right. So this deep dive isn't really about copying the external actions of successful people. It's more about unpacking the fundamental mental habits, the discipline that separates someone just waiting for things to happen from the person who's actively shaping their inner world to make things happen. Okay, let's get to the root of it. If success is built, where does that building process actually start? Every single achievement you see out there, everything we admire, it began as just a thought, didn't it? And that thought had to be, nurtured, repeated, strengthened, until it wasn't just a thought anymore, but a real, solid belief.
A belief.
And that belief becomes the guidance system for taking action.
And here's the tough part, the devastating truth, really. The main reason most people get stuck, it isn't usually about a lack of opportunity. It's not external barriers. It's the quiet, internal sabotage. They face a challenge, maybe big, maybe small, and instantly that internal voice goes, nope, can't do it, not good enough, or that's just too hard, why bother?
And it's fascinating how quickly those thoughts, if you don't question them, become what the material calls invisible chains. It's not always dramatic failure. It's often just a slow chipping away of potential, a quiet giving up on things that weren't actually impossible.
Yeah, think about it this way. The sources often talk about this concept, the law of the mind. The idea is that your mind is basically reproductive. It's like fertile soil. It doesn't care about the quality of the seed you plant. It just grows whatever you put in there. So fear, you get insecurity, inaction, so doubt, you get indecision, endless reasons not to do something.
But flip that around. If you consciously plant conviction, discipline, a clear sense of direction, you inevitably harvest momentum. Success follows. You get back what you consistently cultivate. That's the whole point, isn't it? Your outside world, your results, they're never going to magically expand beyond the limits you set in your inner world. Want a bigger life. You've got to start by changing how you think, period. Okay, this is where it gets really practical. If the mind is always growing something, then the key difference is, well, it's the internal conversation, right? The voice you choose to listen to amplify.
Exactly. The person sort of running on autopilot, their internal track is often filled with defeat, focusing on lack, what I missed out on, what I can't afford, how I messed up yesterday. It's constant. But the successful person, they make a deliberate shift in their language. They actively replace those negative statements. They start using phrases about possibility, focusing on what they can actually build right now with what they have.
And this isn't just thinking happy thoughts, is it? It's described more like active mental correction, like course correcting a ship. Take the very first moments of the day, the autopilot person wakes up, first thought, tired, same old routine.
Yeah.
Don't want to. They're basically setting themselves up for a day of drag and resistance before their feet even hit the floor, without even realizing it.
Right. Whereas the successful person sees that first thought as the critical first domino. They get up with internal commands, not just reflections of how they feel. Commands designed to start movement. So instead of, I'm tired, the correction might be a question like, okay, what's the single most important thing I can do in the next 20 minutes to move towards my goal? See the shift from just feeling something to deciding on an action that changes the whole day's trajectory.
It reminds me completely of physical training. You don't build muscle in one huge workout. It's the consistent, disciplined reps, lifting that mental weight again and again, especially when you don't feel motivated. When you force yourself to make that mental correction, that's the resistance training. That builds mental toughness, character over time.
So a really specific practice for anyone listening is, well, it's radical self-awareness. Try to actually listen to your silent internal chatter. What are the top, say, 5 phrases you repeat without even thinking? Are they phrases driving doubt? Or are they driving determination? Are you mentally rehearsing lack, or are you mentally constructing progress? It's a crucial diagnosis.
Now, the successful mindset, it doesn't mean pretending problems don't exist, right? They're not living in denial. They absolutely expect difficulty, expect obstacles, but the difference is how they interpret adversity when it shows up.
The interpretation changes everything. Where one person sees a dead end, proof they should quit. The successful person sees it as, well, training or feedback or just a necessary problem that needs a solution. They don't just roll over because their mind has been trained to look for the way forward, to extract useful information, not just feel the pain and stop.
Okay, wait. That sounds good, maybe for small setbacks. But what about real significant failure? Like losing a huge contract or a business venture totally collapsing. Is the material saying you just flip a switch and call that training? Isn't there a risk of, toxic positivity, ignoring genuine loss or necessary caution?
That's a great point, and where the discipline part is key, distinguishing it from just naive optimism. The sources aren't suggesting you deny reality or suppress grief. It's about managing the time and energy spent dwelling on the unproductive side of the emotion. The negative thinker might spend, say, 90% of their mental energy on why did this happen? Whose fault is it? This is awful. And maybe only 10% on, okay, what now?
Ah, I see. So the successful person consciously flips that ratio.
Exactly. They allow for the shock, the disappointment. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's an hour. But then the trained mind kicks in and forces the pivot. The question becomes, what's the lesson here? What data can I extract so the next attempt is smarter, stronger? Failure isn't viewed as a verdict on their worth. It's just data. This allows for processing it productively without getting stuck in that emotional quicksand that paralyzes so many people.
Which leads perfectly into this idea of the resilience command. When that inevitable roadblock appears, the default reaction is often, this is impossible, I should just give up. But the person with a trained mindset, they have a different internal command ready. Something like, okay, this is just part of the journey. Or maybe even this challenge is specifically preparing me for something bigger down the line. The obstacle itself is the same. The external reality hasn't changed. But that internal interpretation completely shifts their energy, their commitment, their next action.
So thinking successfully means you have to become like a guardian of your mind, actively protecting it, treating your mental space like your most valuable asset, because it is. This means constantly filtering what you let in damaging opinions from others, dwelling on past failures, getting sucked into the negativity vortex of news or social media comparison. You have to curate what stays in your head with real intention.
And that focus on what you can control, it naturally forces a shift in perspective, doesn't it? A longer view. Because if you're always just reacting to today's fire, today's pain, you can't really build strategically for the future.
That's a fundamental difference in time horizon you see again and again. The average person often gets trapped in short-term thinking, survival mode basically, avoiding immediate discomfort, seeking quick fixes or gratification. They find it incredibly hard to make those tough choices now that only pay off years later because their brain is screaming for relief today.
Right. Whereas the successful person deliberately anchors their mind in a clear, compelling long-term vision, 5, 10, maybe even 20 years out. And that future vision, that pull, is what sustains them through the inevitable difficulties of the present. Because the hard work they're doing today isn't just meaningless struggle. It's directly linked to that bigger outcome they've already decided on mentally.
And having that clarity allows them to pour their mental energy into the things they actually can control. Their attitude each morning, how prepared they are, their level of discipline, their effort. They're not frittering away precious mental bandwidth worrying about luck or what doubters might say or, global economic trends they can't influence. This is how they take that raw energy of anxiety or fear and channel it directly into productive action and getting ready.
This also ties into the language they use, the sense of empowerment. You often hear people talk like victims of circumstance, right? Oh, I have to go to this meeting, or I must finish this awful project. It sounds like drudgery, like obligation.
Yes, and the successful person consciously reframes that narrative. They shift the language. It becomes, I choose to go to this meeting because it serves my larger goal, or I choose to tackle this project because completing it moves me forward. The external action might be identical. They still go to the meeting, they still do the work, but internally, it transforms the effort from a burden into a proactive choice. an act of will. They're not just reacting to demands, they're executing their own plan.
So ultimately, this strategic mind isn't just about thinking, it's trained for doing. For execution over getting stuck in analysis paralysis, they don't just sit around worrying or complaining. The go-to question is, okay, what can I do right now with what I have? Not endlessly asking, why is this happening to me? It's a constant, deliberate redirection of energy towards progress, towards movement. So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening? The core message from all this material seems to be, success isn't something you find or wait for. It's something you forge, day by day, in the quiet of your own mind, through relentless discipline and consistency. It's not about hoping the world changes for you. It's about fundamentally changing your internal command so the world has to respond differently.
And maybe a final thought to chew on from these sources. Your mind is never neutral. It doesn't just idle. It's always working, always processing something. If you don't consciously, deliberately train it, direct it, give it specific instructions and filters, then life, circumstances, other people's opinions, they'll fill it automatically. And usually they fill it with doubt, fear, limitations, excuses. Sliding into mediocrity is, sadly, the default setting for an untrained mind.
The only way to counteract that default slide is deliberate cultivation, building conviction. The person who truly learns to manage their internal dialogue, to filter out the noise, and to consistently focus on the next controllable action. That person, as the material suggests, becomes incredibly difficult, maybe even impossible to stop.
So maybe that's the challenge to leave you with today. If you could pick just one recurring negative or limiting phrase in your own internal monologue, that one story you tell yourself about why you can't, what positive, action-oriented command could you deliberately replace it with, starting right now?
Because remember, the thoughts you consistently cultivate today directly fuel the actions you take tomorrow. And those actions inevitably create the results you see the day after that. The whole process starts right now with that next thought.